Hey everybody, Steve Billman here. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, we're going to continue our series, and today we are going to learn how to count using syllables. And to be more specific, we're going to learn to use South Indian syllables to count. Now, there's a couple things I want to say with that. First of all, I'm not claiming to be an expert on South Indian music. I did study with a percussionist for a couple years, and I sort of took what I learned and I sort of incorporated it into my own music and into my own playing. So this is sort of my approach to doing it. And I created a lot of music with the Odd Dogs using these concepts and stuff. So it's very useful material, but again, this is my sort of approach to it. The other thing is, I'm not getting rid of the Western way of counting. So, the usual way of counting, one E and a, two E and a, or one and two. And that to me is a great way to read music. And I still use it when I'm reading music because it shows you every beat, every 16th note. And so I'm thinking of this as a supplement to that Western way of counting. So in no way am I encouraging you to, learn to read music this way. This will help us with this series that we're doing because we're going to create a lot of polyrhythms. And so these syllables are really going to help us to create polyrhythms in a very easy way. And I'm going to show you later on in the video what I mean by that. Okay? All right. So let's first of all, I'm going to show you um, the rhythm scale tree. So here it is, and you can check it out. Obviously, on the left are the note values, and on the right side are the syllables. So the reason we call it the rhythm scale tree, obviously it looks like a tree, right? It looks like a pine tree or a Christmas tree, whatever. Um, and we're only going to go up to the fifth rhythm. We're not going to do all of them today just for time's sake, but you can investigate those in your own time. And also the first five rhythms, pretty much majority of what you're going to deal with, not all, but majority of what you're going to deal with is within those five rhythms. Okay, so let's start with the quarter note. So in Western music, we usually count quarter notes: one, two, three, four. And again, great way to count it. It shows you where the beat is. You know exactly where you are in the measure. Don't lose that. But the syllable we're going to use for that is ta. So when we count a measure of four, it will be ta, 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 ta. Okay? Now, the next one, eighth notes or two notes, usually associated with eighth notes. We're going to say ta ka, taka, 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 taka. All right? Next one, three note groupings, which in most cases we're talking usually triplets. So in Western way of counting, when we deal with a triplet, it's one of a few ways: one triplet, two triplet, three triplet, four triplet, or triplet, 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 or even one and two and three and four. And they're all brilliant. Again, don't lose those. You want to use those when you count. But for the syllables, we're going to say ta ki te, 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 ta ki te. And what you'll find is when you're doing these syllables at first, they're a little bit of tongue twisters, and they take a little bit of time to get used to them. But once you get used to them, you find ways to enunciate them in a specific way where they start to come out pretty easily. So just work on them. Don't worry, it's going to be a little awkward at first, but it's no big deal. So let me do this. For the first three, I'm just going to take a measure for each one of those rhythms. I'll snap the quarter note, and you guys can hear what they sound like. So here we go. Ta, 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 taka, 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 takite, 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 takite. Okay, one more time. Three, four, and ta, 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 taka, 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 takite, 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 takite. All right. So again, that'll take a little bit of time to get used to the sound and the feel of those syllables. Sorry for the helicopter, you guys. So it'll take a little time for you to get used to them, but I promise you, with a little bit of practice, they'll become second nature in no time. Okay? So let's look at the group of four notes now. So again, mostly associated with 16th notes. So instead of saying 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, we're going to say takadimi, 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 takadimi. So takadimi, 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 ta. Okay? And then the last one that we're going to cover, the group of five notes, this is usually going to be associated with a quintuplet. And a quintuplet is simply 5/16 notes evenly spaced within one beat. Okay? And there are a few ways of doing that. So you can combine the two and the three rhythm. So taka takite, or you can reverse that. Takite taka. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. So that would be taka takite, taka takite, taka takite, taka takite, or takite, taka takite, taka takite. But, and that's fine to do that, but that gives you two accents. Taka takite, right? Or takite taka. What if you only want one accent? So there's a couple other ways you can do it. The way I do it, I like the syllable da de gina dom. Da de gina dom. And I think I was taught it's the sound of the drum when you play the drum. But again, this is just my learning. This is the way I learned it. You don't have to use this, but this is the one I like to use. Da de gina dom, da de gina dom, da de gina dom, da de gina. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da de gina dom, da de gina dom, da de gina dom. Okay. The other one, and this was taught to me by Ralph Humphrey, who was pretty much a guru in this sort of thing. And forgive me because I don't use it, but it's takadinaga, takadinaga. So takadinaga, 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 takadinaga. Really, whatever syllables you use, it doesn't make a huge difference, but the syllables themselves are going to make a difference when we get into the polyrhythm, and I'll get into that in a second. So when I went to a class a long time ago, I already knew how to read music, but it was sort of a beginning reading class for a songwriting class I took. And it was really interesting hearing the teacher teach the rhythm just to give people an idea of basic rhythms. And he said, look, you can break it up into whatever syllables you want. So his example was for 16 notes, alligator, 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 alligator. He also, for Seinfeld fans, he also said Frankenstanza, 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 Frankenstanza. So the idea is that as long as you're singing or playing the rhythm correctly, it doesn't really matter what you say. Although for reading, again, I like the Western way because it shows you where all the beats are. But the point is, as long as you're doing the right rhythms, the syllables don't really matter. Okay, so let me show you now. Uh, well, let me before I do that, let me do this. Let me show you how I want you to practice this particular rhythm scale tree. Okay, so basically, you're going to start at the top and you're going to work your way down to the fifth rhythm, which has got Dadi Gina Dom. And then I want you to go backwards. Go back to the Takadimi, Takite, Takite, Taka, and then the Ta. So ta, 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 taka, 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 takite, 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 takadimi, tak, takadimi, takadimi. Dotty gaina dum, dotty gaina dum, dotty gaina dum, dotty gaina dum, takadimi, takadi, takadimi, takadimi, takite, 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 taka, 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 ta, 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 ta. So I would advise doing that with a click. I just jumped into it. Sorry about that. I was excited. Um, but basically, you're going to start at the top. You're going to work down to the dotted gainadome, the group of five, and then go backwards. And then once you do that, you feel comfortable with that, start jumping around. So go from, ta, 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 dotted gainadome, dotted gainadome, dotted gainadome, dotted gainadome, ta, ki, te, ta, ki, te. You just move from the different rhythms because each time you move from those rhythms, it's going to cause a different problem. And again, it's the shift in the speed of the notes that is challenging. But again, when you do those, don't snap your finger like I'm doing. Try to do it with a click because the click is going to be more honest and it's going to keep you accountable. Okay? So that's how I want you to practice these. Okay, let me go now to showing you an example of how we can use now these syllables as a way to play polyrhythms. So the idea is that by just going from the takadimi, I'm not changing the speed of the 16 note. The 16 note is staying exactly the same. But by changing the syllable from takadimi to takite, I end up with 4/3. So again, if I just do the polyrhythm, so here's the 16 note, 3, 1, 2, 3. Takite, 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 takite. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All I had to do was just change the syllables. I didn't have to create the polyrhythm. I didn't even have to think about it. All I had to do was change the syllables. So this is why the syllables to me are so important to learn, because when we get in these polyrhythms, it's going to be a lot easier to do that. Okay? All right. Well, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Again, practice, practice, practice. Make sure you're using a click and really lock in those rhythms. Okay? Thank you so much, you guys, for checking out the video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.